Did you know that the statue of Colt that was added to the arcade environment is to memorialize his voice actor Billy Kometz, who sadly passed away from cancer a couple of years ago? Or how about the small face on the back of Ash that's there as a maker's mark of sorts as a nod to Paul Chambers, who created over half of all of the brawlers in Brawl Stars? Or even that the Detective Gray skin was inspired by a 1980s cartoon called Inspector Gadget. Those are just 3 of the 50 secret references in Brawl Stars that I'm going to share with you in this video. But before we go any further, I've been playing 1v1.lol for some time recently, which is the new fast-paced battle royale for mobile and PC where you can play solo or duos in a variety of game modes and maps. There's Classic Showdown as well as the 1v1 mode to choose from, as well as practice modes where you can perfect your game building or even practice your aim. What makes 1v1.lol so fun is that there are so many different champions to choose from, and each one of them have their own unique abilities. They get outfitted with a myriad of different weapons ranging from a pistol to a rocket launcher and everything in between. These weapons progress with you as well and will become stronger as you open up free rewards you get along the way on both the trophy road, new events and challenges, as well as the pass. And the game isn't just for experienced players either. The matchmaking adapts to your skill and will put you against other players with similar experience. There's also some new awesome skin events going on right now. If you remember last time, it was Unspeakable, FaZe Rug, and Booga, but now you can also unlock skins for Laser Beam, Slogo, and Click, so hurry up, you don't want to miss out. You can download 1v1.lol for mobile using the link in the description, but you can also play it on PC via Steam. Big thanks to 1v1.lol for sponsoring today's video. Over the years, Brawl Stars has been putting references into many different things, from skins, voice lines, social media, as well as brawlers and their names. Some of them are pretty obvious, like how Power Ranger Brock is a direct reference to the cartoon Power Rangers, but others are a bit more subtle, like how the newest brawler Draco's name in Latin means dragon. I mean, that is, unless you speak Latin, then it's not so subtle, it's pretty obvious. However, the references don't end there for Draco. Now, Draco is a heavy metal guitarist that is part of a new trio called the Dragon Force. But did you know that there is an actual band called Dragon Force, known for their insane guitar playing and have even been featured in the game Guitar Hero? Well, the lead guitarist for them is a guy named Herman Lee, who also has long hair and crazy guitar shredding prowess. So a long-haired shred guitar player in a band called Dragon Force. Coincidence? I think not. What is a coincidence is El Primo's name. In Spanish, it means the cousin, but the name was actually derived from the Latin primo, which means first because, well, El Primo always thinks he's number one. They just slapped L in front of there to make it sound more Mexican. Primo. But Latin isn't the only other language brawlers are named after, as the Russian brawler Grom, his name translates to thunder, which is the sounds of bombs exploding and the thing that's caused him to be so afraid of the children.
I hear the children laughing at me.
And while bombs exploding may be hard on your ears, Daryl has a voice line that has a musical reference. Now, one of his voice lines is, "You see me rolling." This is a direct reference to a Chameleonaire song called Riding.
They see me rolling, they hate it.
And if you think that's the only pop song reference in the game, well, you'd be wrong, because one of Charlie's voice lines is,
"My yo-yo brings all the pain to your face,"
which is a callback to the song Milkshake.
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard.
And if you weren't convinced with that, she actually takes it a step further with her next voice line.
La 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 la,
which also comes from the same song. Now, another brawler that references singing is Amber, specifically Frost Queen Amber, as this skin is an obvious reference to the movie Frozen. Now, if you weren't convinced before, her newly added voice lines are enough to put this one in the confirmed category.
Do you want to build a snowman?
do you want to build a brawler?
And while Amber clearly references a movie, there are a lot of other skins in the game that also reference other movies and more. Pyro Spike is based on a superhero called Kick-Ass. And the Amazing Charlie is clearly paying homage to Gwen Stacy from Spider-Man. Grinch Miko is of course spot on for the Grinch in the Dr. Seuss books, and Bull's skin B800 is clearly referencing T800, which is the Terminator. And if you thought Terminator was a bad dude, well, Rambo has to be right up there with him. And the movie First Blood is very much the inspiration for First Blob Squeak. We've got Dr. Edgar, who is basically Dr. Octopus, and his mech version even has the mechanical tentacles as well. Evil Queen Pam is very much a carbon copy of the evil queen from the Disney show Snow White. But the references to movie don't stop there, because we also have Crocodile Buster, who does his best to impersonate the 80s movie Crocodile Dundee. Clearly, the dev team likes 80s movies, and Squeak Buster Gale is more proof because it comes from the Ghostbusters movie, even if his weapon blows rather than sucks in ghosts. We also have a Star Wars reference in Smuggler Penny, but the team is clearly a fan of animated shows as well, because Hoot Hoot Shelly has a lot of similar styling to the TV series The Owl House. And speaking of animations, while Boy Scout Gus could certainly just be a Boy Scout that's very common, he also bears a striking resemblance to the character from the movie Up. But the references aren't just for skins. Some of the brawlers themselves have drawn inspiration elsewhere. For instance, Gray is a silent movie actor in black and white and has clearly taken inspiration from Charlie Chaplin, who was a silent film star back in the early days of cinema when movies were also black and white. And speaking of older movies, Piper and her umbrella share a striking resemblance to Mary Poppins, who also floated along on her umbrella. Now, another famous female lead was Anouk Aimée. She is a French actress who is famous for many of her roles, but one of them, she was a cabaret dancer in a film called Lola. You can easily see the resemblance of the brawler named after the movie and her, although I have seen people suggest that Marilyn Monroe was the reference with Lola, but I don't believe that that's the case. But Lola wasn't the only brawler who was inspired after a movie. Sprout was inspired from the movie WALL-E. Some brawlers have references from mythology as well. Some of them are rather obvious, like the skins from the Ragnarok season in the Norse-inspired Floki, Skadi, Odin, and Thor. However, other skins reference Greek mythology, like Cerberus Tick, Ares Nani, and of course, Zeus Brock. However, other brawler skins are references to real people or objects. Billy the Kid is a direct reference to the Wild West outlaw Billy the Kid, while others, like Ladybug Bee, is, well, she's a ladybug. You could also say that she's based off of this superhero, but, I mean, she's a ladybug, so, you know, what are you going to do? Major Rosa with her red beret is a reference to special forces from many different armed forces from around the world, and V8 8-Bit is not only a gas pump as he shoots out fuel or oil, but also his design and name come from automobiles, as a V8 is a type of engine with 8 cylinders, and there's even a hood ornament on 8-Bit's model, just like many of the classic cars from the 40s and 50s. Now, on a bit more morbid of a note, Crowbone Crow gets its design from a plague mask, but Crow himself may have been inspired from the character from the video game called Star Fox, and the character's name was Falco Lombardi. Some skins, however, have references to other video games too. Now, the obvious ones here are like Hog Rider Carl, Barbarian King Bull, and Night Witch Mortis, as they come from Supercell games, but also Arch Villain B. Now, while not a direct reference, it's very much in the style of the games like Bendy and the Ink Machine or Cuphead. Even some older arcade games like we see from Griff's High Score skin, as its animation shows a game reminiscent of Space Invaders. Now, we talked about how Lola was based off a character in a movie or the movie itself, but some brawlers were actually based off of real people from the past as well. The Gold Arm Gang consists of 3 brawlers: Sam, Belle, and Pearl. Now, these 3 brawlers were based off of real people who lived in the 1800s. Belle Reed was a bandit who lived here in my home state of Oklahoma, and I even went to her hideout with my daughter in this video. Belle herself had a daughter named Rosie Reed in 1868, and later she got the nickname Pearl. Many years after that, she married a man named Sam Starr and took on the name Belle Starr. Now, I've seen people's theories that Pearl is Sam's daughter, but at least historically speaking, she was not. Now, another famous outlaw duo that gets some references in Brawl Stars is Bonnie and Clyde. They terrorized the United States during the Great Depression. Now, naturally, we have Janet's little sister Bonnie, but her canon, his name is Clyde. Now, another brawler that references a real-life person is Fang. Now, Fang is an Asian martial arts film star, and this one could actually go one of 2 ways. First off, it could be a reference to Jackie Chan, as he's also a Chinese martial arts film star, and his surname translates to Fang. Seems like a done deal, right? Well, maybe. The other obvious reference here would be perhaps the most iconic martial arts film star ever in Bruce Lee. And while not a real life person, but one more of legend, we have Headless Rider Stu, who is based off the European folklore, which inspired books like The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. In this book, he describes a horseman who had been decapitated by a cannonball and comes back to ride at night, which is some pretty dark stuff. And speaking of heads that have been removed, Leon's Trick or Treat skin, the basket he's using to collect candy, seems to be a reference to Poco, as it looks like his face is on that basket. Now, Brawl Stars also has used a ton of references in their social media and videos as well. I could actually make an entire video on this alone, but here are a few that you might find interesting. First off, one of the coolest sci-fi films was the first Matrix, and this post clearly shows the red and blue pills that signify either making a choice to accept reality or continue to live on under the illusion of the Matrix. Brawl Stars has no problem referencing other games as well, like Diablo on this poster that Brawl Stars put out. And of course, big movies and heroes are prime targets as well, like this animated Spider-Man one. Other movies like Guardians of the Galaxy, with all of the brawlers matching the poses as well, which is a really cool detail. And this one with Piper, Willow, and Bonnie is a clear Powerpuff Girls reference. And then finally, this reference to The Last of Us with Stu. Now, I could go on and on about all the references in social media, but suffice to say, they are really creative and the artwork on them is amazing.